This episode, we are going over the one-page solo engine GM emulator. We're going to be going over the Microlite20 Fifth Adamantine edition, and we're going to be going over some of the principles of the DM Yourself and DM Yourselves guide. That's all coming up on this particular episode of the Cheapskate Gamer.
Theme song again? Ah, gee, Ma.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to the Cheapskate Gamer. I am your host, Steve Rogers. Yes, that is my real name, and no, I don't know anybody named Tony Stark. Thank you very much. In my last episode, we went ahead and introduced you to the contents of the box, which is what I'm going to be using for my role-playing campaign. And I went over I went over the contents of what was in it. I went over my ground rules for my solo campaign. We're in session -1 right now. I wanted to go over how the actual game is going to work itself. Now, I did pull out the manuals that I had in the contents of the box, and here they are once again, all 10 of them. I didn't actually go into detail with what exactly was inside what each one of these little manuals are. I also didn't mention that these are what we call pocket mods. I don't know if you've ever heard of a pocket mod or not. Most of you probably have. Basically, this is a clever little piece of kirigami. What I mean by kirigami is, it's a piece of origami, but there's at least one cut involved after you get started folding it. So, that's not pure, like some people would say. But this is basically just one piece of paper. Each one of these is a single piece of paper, which has been cut and folded in such a way as it makes a nice little book. I've become, since I got started with getting my preparations for this series together, I've become aware of something called a pocket fold, which is similar. Not quite really make a booklet, but the advantage of a pocket fold over a pocket mod is that it's pure origami, for one, and you can use both sides of the paper the way that you wind up getting it to fold it. So I might be going through the process of investigating these as I go along, and if I can get twice as much information stored in my box, that would be quite handy, I would think. So I'm talking about the Microlite20 Fifth Adamantine edition. You can see I have my various things here. I have the player's guide, I have my equipment guide, this is the one-page solo engine, that's my GM emulator, this right here, the GM guide and expert rules. I have a monster manual and bestiary here. This is my GM emulator reference for the Mythic system. Now, I do own copies of the Mythic RPG. I actually have the full RPG, as well as PDF versions of the GM emulator and the GM emulator deck. What I've done there is I've gone through them, found the important bits that I would use for solo play, and just have them in this nice little handy-dandy little reference right here. I really actually want to get a copy of the deck itself, and that way I can put it in a third card caddy, because I do have an extra connector, and I could just go ahead and add that to the box. It would make the box really freaking big, but it'd probably be worth it. Other things I have here: general spell list. This right here is just player sheets. I have a notepad. You can see I've already used this several times, but I do reserve the right to swap these out as I fill them up, but I will keep a hold of them. Over here, this last one is my general character creation reference. I have a really convoluted way of making characters. I have 3 different NPC generators in the course of in this tiny little box. In this one little cache, I have 3 different NPC generation routines, and none of them really create a full character by themselves. So what I have done is I have my own little mix of formulas that I'm going to be using as needed to create full characters. And what's an NPC versus a PC really anyway? It's a character that's not controlled by a player. Well, when you're playing solo, what's the real difference there, right? Anyway, so I'm going to be going over basically the contents of the player's guide. This is the main guts of the Microlite20 system. So, first of all, unlike something like Dungeons and Dragons, like the 5th edition, which is what this is based on, instead of having 6 attributes, you have 3. The 3 attributes that you have are strength, dexterity, and mind. You can think of them kind of as the the major types of saves that they had in the 3.5 edition. And those would be Fortitude save, Reflex save, Willpower save. You can think of those three the same way. How strong you are, how fast you are, and how smart you are get you in particular situations. In addition to the three main stats, there are 4 skills. The 4 skills in the game are, you have physical, which is if you're trying to do anything that involves any kinds of physical thing, things like jumping, running, climbing. If basically your athletics checks or your acrobatics checks, that would be handled by the physical skill. The second skill is subterfuge. Now, subterfuge basically is for anything that requires you to come up with some kind of plan. It's not just what you might think that the name would suggest, not things like deception, seduction, intimidation, persuasion. Not just what that handles. It's also the things that you have to come up with a plan with in order to succeed. So, it could also be planning or strategy. That's another way of thinking of it. It's used a lot in many of the different checks within the Microlite20 system. The third one is knowledge. Knowledge is used for anything that requires specialized knowledge in order to succeed. It's not necessarily just general knowledge. It could also be used for things like crafting. So it's where you have to have some knowledge of the skill that you're trying to apply in order to succeed at it. And the fourth and final one is communication. Communication is a skill that is used whenever you are trying to either convey information to another entity or gain the information from a different entity. And not just people, not just sapient beings within the world. Things like animal handling would be done with a communication skill. Now, the way that it's set up in Microlite20 is that the skills are not based on the stats. They are independent of one another, and the score that you use for your stats is equal to your level. What you can do is combine any single skill with any one of the 3 stats, depending on what exactly it is that you're trying to do. The example that they usually use, that the Microlite20 community actually uses, is if you're trying to climb. Okay, well, if you're a fighter, that's a strength-based skill in 3.5e or 5e. It's a strength-based skill, so no problem, right? You probably even have proficiency in it. What if you're a wizard and you have to do this, and you, for some reason, don't have skill slots left, and for some reason you don't have spell slots left, and you can't just teleport up the hill. You actually have to climb the damn thing, right? So, in that particular case, if you're the wizard, you're probably going to fail your check, and you're probably going to fall, well, depending on if you have a GM who's a jerk. So, Microlite20 lets you make the choice of which one of the 3 skills you're going to apply to that situation. I'm going to climb the hill in feat of wonderful dexterity and strongly and as quickly as I possibly can. Physical plus strength. I'm going to try to find all the handholds and think my way as I climb. Physical plus mind. And things like that. And that actually makes the system a lot more flexible than what you would have in the regular game system. There are a number of races that are available in the game. Now, I don't particularly like the way they handle races in Microlite20. There are basically 4 races in the Fifth Adamantine edition. You have humans, and then you have strong races, quick races, smart races. BS. And really the only thing that they do, the only thing that having a race does in Microlite20 with the way the rules are written is it gives you your skill bonus, it gives you your stat bonuses. And that's the only effect. So things like a dwarf's dark vision, they don't get it. But things like the fey resistances of an elf, they don't get it in Microlite20. You just get the stat scores, and that is it. You combine that with the fact that there's really no such thing as a feat in Microlite20 as well. And what I do is that instead of applying the racial bonus to the score of whatever stat it is that they're supposed to increase. I apply it to the bonus instead, because you need to have some kind of way of offsetting those two things. But those are what you have. You have the races. There are up to 10 different classes, and these are the same ones that you would find in 5e, with the exception of the Sorcerer class and the Warlock class. Those are the two that are missing from Microlite20. They've actually been rolled in with the Wizard class into a single class, which they call Mages. And looking at the rules, this is actually not too big of a loss. The way they handle magic in Microlite20, there's the best bits of each three that's combined into a single single class. Now, the advantage and disadvantage rules from 5e are also part of the 5th Adamantine edition. Now, I see a lot of confusion about how advantage and disadvantage works online, so I'm just going to do a quick demonstration of this real quick. I'll go ahead and switch over here to my overhead camera, and I'm going to go ahead and roll a couple of dice. These are a couple of my d20s that are for my set. Okay, you can see that on one die I rolled a 1, on the other die I rolled a 7. If I had advantage on whatever check it was I was going to make, I would use the higher of the two rolls. In this case, it's the 7 that would count. If I had disadvantage on the situation, I would use the lower of the two rolls. In this case, it would be the 1 that would count, and the 1 usually indicates a critical failure of some kind. So, the fact that I rolled the 7, if I had advantage, the fact that I rolled the 1 wouldn't matter. And if I was doing this at disadvantage, well then yeah, I have a critical failure here. Let's go with the most extreme example. Let's say that my result was 20 and 1. So if I had advantage, I have got a critical success. So at disadvantage, it's a 1. And it's whatever bonuses you would add to the roll are still added to the roll. It's just you take whichever one of the dice you're supposed to. It's either the higher one or the lower one. I like the advantage mechanic a lot. I came from 3.5e at that understanding of things, and it's really quite intuitive once you get used to seeing how it works a couple of times. Okay, so the next real topic we need to talk about with the Microlite20 system is how magic works. Now, there is no Vancian magic. There is no such thing as spell slots in Microlite20. In the original rules, it was all blood magic. Each one of the spells costs a certain amount of HP, which did come out of your regular health pool points and could only be healed up at the tail end of the day. The 5th Adamantine edition amends this a bit. You have magic points, or mana points, MP. I like the term mana points personally, but it is magic points in the rules, so whatever. You have two ways of playing it. You can either do MP equal to your HP, and that's your pool that you have to work with. You gain some back during a short rest, you gain a lot more back during a long rest, just like you do with HP. You can also have blood magic involved in the game as well. If you do that, you have half as much MP as you do HP. And whenever your MP pool is empty, or if you need to at any point, you can take 2 HP and turn it into 1 MP and still be able to cast your spells. It's still the same. It doesn't heal up naturally. You have to do a rest at that point in order to get your magic back. Now, there are cantrips in the game. Of course, you can cast those as many times as you want to. They don't cost MP. There's also an optional rule for ritual magic, where if you spend 10 minutes casting things, it doesn't cost MP, so you're welcome to do that anyway if you have time to do that sort of thing. A spell cost, the spell cost is 1 plus double whatever the level of the magic is. So if you're casting a level, say you're casting a 5th level spell, so 5 times 2 plus 1, it's going to cost you 11 MP to cast the thing. Let's see. Of course, you have cantrips. Combat is pretty much the same as it is in 5e. You have an armor class that's determined by how good your armor is, and you add your dexterity score to a base score of 10. And that is the die roll that somebody needs to roll on a d20 test, plus whatever attack bonuses they get for it, to try to hit you. If they succeed, they roll their damage dice. That comes out of your HP. When you get to 0 HP, you have to do death saves. 3 successes before 3 fails and you're okay. 3 fails before 3 successes and you're dead. It's a pretty straightforward little way of doing things. Now, level advancement. There are, of course, you can do level advancement the same way. XP is awarded in Microlite20 based on the challenge rating of whatever it is you fight. And basically anything that you fight and succeed against, you can make, if they run, great, that still counts. If you kill it, great, that counts, obviously. You add the challenge rating of that to your XP total. And leveling up happens at 10 times whatever your current level is. So if your character is level 1, you get up to level 2 whenever you've achieved 10 total experience points. And that's how that works. It's just you're adding up the challenge ratings of whatever it is that you're up against. This also counts for basic traps and things like that. This system is actually pretty generic in how that it gets applied, but there are ways of determining what the challenge rating actually is supposed to be. When you do level up, you're getting some extra points. Of course, your skills go up because they're all based on level. You get some extra hit points, of course, and if you're a magic caster, then you'll get some extra MP at the same point. At certain levels, you gain proficiency bonuses, and at certain levels, you gain additions to your stat scores. Pretty straightforward, right? I think that's all I need to really go over here as far as the Microlite20 system is concerned. Let me go ahead and switch over to talking about the one-page solo engine. Now this is going to be the GM emulator that I'm going to be using for my campaign. I really like the one-page solo engine because as the name suggests, you can print it out on a single page of piece of paper. If you're printing an A4 or letter size paper, the meat and potatoes are, if you look at the PDF, it's a 4-page PDF, but the meat and potatoes are on page 2 and 3, so you can print page 2 on one side, you print page 3 on the other. Or if you're printing, say, an A3, you can get the whole thing, as on a single piece of paper, just as a nice little fold out. Now I use one-page solo engine. I really love this thing. It has several real big advantages to it. First of all, it's free, so if I'm doing a show where I'm not having any budget whatsoever, then yeah, that's a pretty important consideration. It's robust for what it does, it is very portable, and it is also system agnostic. You can use this thing with any role-playing system that you want. You can couple it up with anything like even if you wanted to do something like Old School Traveler, or if we want to do old school games like 2nd edition or Dungeons & Dragons. If you want to use it with this Wing Commander, Starflight role-playing games, you can. And because it's system agnostic, all you need in order to play it, in order to use it, is a deck of cards and 6-sided dice. Now, this is my little reference sheet. It is the whole thing, and yeah, if those who are in the know, who care about these, who need to know about these things, yes, I do have the credits for who created it. And I do have the licensing information on my little reference guide, so this thing's legit. Just letting you know how to that's how it is. Using it's pretty straightforward. If you have a scene that you're starting at, you describe what it is that you're going to try to do within your scene. You roll 2 dice, two 6-sided dice. One of them is going to give you a complication for the scene. And the other one's going to tell you if you have a major alteration to the scene. So if you watch me, myself, and die, you might be familiar with the notion of a scene interrupt or an altered scene. With the one-page solo engine, what you have is that happens with a occurrence of 5 or 6 on the second die. Now I'll probably, whenever I'm rolling for these things, I generally use a blue die, generally use a yellow die. It's usually the yellow die that I will use for amendment of anything, and I'll probably use a red die as well in those situations where it's warranted. So if you're familiar with solo RPGs, you know that the crux, the main oracle that you're going to be, they call them oracles, the main system that you're going to be using in order to play the game is you're going to be asking questions. You have things that could happen in the course of your role-playings, in the course of your sessions, and you're going to frame it as a yes or no question, and you're going to roll dice to determine, is the answer yes, is the answer no. One-page solo engine has a very simple system to do this. It's similar to what you would find in Moon, or Moon. How do you pronounce that anyway? M-U-N-E. Matey Uppy Namey Emulator. That's what it stands for. Yes, this is the actual name of the thing. And it's the basis of a lot of different systems, including this one. So, to use the yes no emulate, yes no Oracle in one-page solo engine, once again, 2d6. And I'll be using the blue one as the main answer, yes or no, and the yellow one is the amendment die. So basically, anything on the blue die that is 3 or less is a no. Anything that is 4 or more is a yes. Straightforward, right? There are 3 levels of subjective likelihood that you can apply to the result of the roll. It's either going to be unlikely, in which case you take the result of the blue die and you subtract 1 from it. It can be even, which is take the die as is, or it could be likely, in which case you add 1 to the result of the die. Now I like to add the advantage mechanic once again to gain 4 more levels of subjective likelihood. You know, I want to have an extremely unlikely, a very unlikely, and then we have our regular levels, and then we have a very likely, and we have an extremely likely. And the way that works is with the advantage mechanic. So once again, that advantage disadvantage, I will roll 2 dice, whichever one, if I'm rolling for either very likely or extremely likely, I will roll 2 dice, take the higher. If it's very likely, I take that as is. If it's extremely likely, I'll add 1 to that result. And then, you know, vice versa. If I've got a very unlikely situation, I'll take the lower. And then, if it's extremely unlikely, I'll take the lower and then subtract 1 from that result. In all those cases, the yellow die acts as the amendment dice. So usually the result is going to be yes, a simple yes or a simple no. And that's going to be indicated on this one with a result of 2, 3, 4, or 5. If I get a 1 on the amendment dice, it's mitigated. So it's either going to be a yes, but, or a no, but. So something else could happen, or yes, but there's not quite everything you wanted, or no, but things are a little bit better than you might think. And then, of course, on a 6, this is an augmented result. Yes, and, or no, and. So things are either going to be better than you think they're going to be, or they're going to be even worse than you want them to be. So that's how that particular oracle works. There's also a how, they indicate it as a how oracle. It's really a how much oracle instead. That's a single d6 roll. 3 or 4 is about average, and then you have lesser or more than that sort of thing. They have pacing moves in the OPSE, one-page solo engine. If I get stuck on something that I'm not quite sure what needs to happen next, I'll just roll a d6 and I'll go off this chart. They also have failure moves within the one-page solo engine. Now, I would like to, I actually augment this particular set of things with a post that I saw on John Ford's role-playing tips site a few months back. OPSE does have its own set of things that happen when you fail a check. You roll a d6 and something happens that's bad as a result. But I also like to take a d20 and roll that at the same time and use the chart from John Ford's site. In the event that I really, I failed the check, but I really needed to succeed in order to continue the story in that case, that's one that I might do instead. And I'll go ahead and post the chart of that set of results up here real quick, because I know it off the top of my head, but it's easier to show you than to explain it. Let's see. The one-page solo engine has 3 main focus oracles, and these are based on the card draws. So there is a action focus, which is, a verb is what it produces. There's a topic focus, which produces a noun. And then there's a detail focus, which produces adjectives. And then, of course, they're based on rank. So whatever the rank of the card is that you draw, that's whatever word it generates. They're also based on suit, and suits have different domains that are involved with them. So like say if I'm taking an action focus, I draw the 7 of spades. So 7 by itself means create. That's the verb that's generated there. Create what? I need more detail. I go to the card domain. In this case, spades means either mystical, meaning, or capability, and I'll apply that to whatever situation comes up there. One-page solo engine also has a plot hook generator, which I can use later on as the campaign continues. What's going to be happening next? There's an NPC generator in it. That's one of the 3 that's in here. And there is also a very nice little dungeon crawler, dungeon generator that you have, Kevin, there. And there's a hex crawler that you can add in there too for larger range exploration. Okay, that's probably not sufficient, but what the hell, I'm just going to go on to the next thing because this video is getting long anyway. Last thing I'm going to be talking about is the guidelines that I find and I'm going to be using in DM Yourself. Now, the majority of the focus of this particular book is on pre-published adventures, as I've mentioned in my previous video. But there are some things that are applicable to a more free-form style, which is what I'm going to be doing. So the real thing that Tom Scott recommends that you do whenever you're doing solo role-playing games is to try to do some things that make life easier on your player characters. First of all, he recommends that you have a main character and a sidekick. Now, Microlite20 does not actually have sidekicks. So what I do is I have a few general, really basic things that I do to emulate the idea of a sidekick instead. I limit them to the 4 main basic classes. So it's going to be fighter, rogue, mage, or cleric. And I give them a -1 penalty to their proficiency scores. And that's pretty much all that I really need in order to make that particular adjustment work. The other thing that he recommends that you have use of 3 instances of hero's luck per day in your game world. The way that works is that, okay, you've got a roll result, you see what your roll result is, you don't like what your roll result is, it's something that you can re-roll up to 3 times a day. Basically any D20 test. It's going to be a skill check, it's going to be an attack roll, it's going to be a save, you feel the need to re-roll it, you can do that up to 3 times per day. There's also a cleaving rule, where if you knock an opponent down to 0 HP, and you still have damage that's left over, you still have another opponent in range, you can apply the damage to that next opponent. He recommends that the foes that you fight are at 3/4 of their normal maximum HP, that they only do their average amount of damage instead of, you roll for it, you just do the average amount. He also recommends that you have them break at 1/4 of their normal HP. Now, I like to give advantage to my opponents in that case. So it's 3/4 of their maximum hit points. I round that up. If it's 1/4 of their hit points to break, I round that down. And that's just me. You can do that. If you're going to do that sort of thing, do whatever you want to on that one. The last thing that I'm going to take from this is the notion of plot armor. And this is the nuclear failsafe. If I'm going to die, I have the option once per level of saying, no, I don't die. And I have to have a good story reason for doing that. If I can't come up with a good story reason for doing that, I die anyway, and that's the end of this show. And whenever you do engage the plot armor, I can only do that. I can only do this 5 times total over the course of the entire lifetime of the character. And whenever that is engaged, if I choose to use it, there is a negative consequence. There's a severely negative consequence as a result. It has to be dramatic, and there are some suggestions within the guidebook for how that works, like normal. He also has some suggestions for default behaviors, things that my characters will do whenever they're adventuring. This is things I'm going to be using with the deck of mini dungeons. Stuff like, am I going to search for traps in every corridor and nook and cranny that I'm going to be exploring? Yes, I am. Okay, that's one of my default behaviors. So I go into this next area. I'm going to explore for traps first. Oh, there is a trap in this area. Okay, great. I can roll to check to see if it's there. Oh, I don't do that. There's a trap in this area. Guess who's going to hit the damn trap? Things like that. And we're going to get into that in a little bit more as we get into the campaign. All right. That's about going to wrap it up for this episode. Hopefully I've gotten enough information to you guys about how this is going to work. Next episode, the big one, Session 0. We're going to figure out who it is that we're going to be sending on our adventure. I'm looking forward to it. Hope you are too. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Subscribing is what I'm trying to go after here. I'm trying to get as many subscriptions as I can. I have a 10-year-old autistic child who thinks that he needs a silver play button, so I'm looking for 100,000 folks if I can actually get it. Probably not, but I might as well try, right? So if you like the video, please like and subscribe. If you want to donate to the channel monetarily, hey, you're out of luck. I don't take money. Go give the money to Trevor Devell over at Me, Myself, and Die. Check out his website, his merchandise. You know, support the role-playing community in general, solo role-playing community in general, because we are a community and we need all the support we can get. That's it for now. Hope to see you on the next Cheapskate Gamer.